Hi, this is Don again, and I want to wrap up a little bit of the series of videos I've been making about San Bernardino. This is probably going to be my final comment unless something new comes out. It doesn't appear that anything new is going to come out, which is very unfortunate, um, especially the way things have been going down the rabbit hole about the couple and their connections to terror. We are seeing the effects of it all play out, probably uh, just along the angle that I've been taking on this, that it was an event that was staged to help promote um, the war on terror and American involvement with group boots on the ground in Syria. Here we see this new $1.1 trillion spending package has just been approved this week now by Congress, no government shutdown, and it also includes a noteworthy item here, the CISA surveillance legislation, which we'll go into here in a second. And this was slipped in into the bill at sort of the last minute, and it was something that caught my attention. As you read through the article, you find out, how everybody agreed and reported that it was a good news. It was good. It was a good win for Washington, D.C. to avert a shutdown over the bill. The breakdown of certain items, though, here we see military, which had been suffering in decline over the last few years with the sequesters, has come back up to its previous high levels and beyond. I'm going to break down a little bit of analysis of where that spending will go in the military, some of the programs which I find a bit controversial. But let's go down into this one item that was added at the last second, which was the cybersecurity bill. And they're saying here that this new Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act of 2015 added into this bill the last second here. It's a new law that authorizes companies to share information about cyber threats with any federal entity. Any company participating in data sharing would be immune from consumer lawsuits. Once the Department of Homeland Security has all the pertinent details, they could be passed along to the FBI and the NSA for further investigation and potentially legal action. So now we have the government dipping into private information from businesses throughout our country. And here is a leading opponent in his remarks about this. A gentleman named Ron Wyden from Oregon. He says that these unacceptable surveillance provisions are a black mark on a worthy package that contacts the biggest tax cut for working families in decades, an accomplishment I fought for in weeks of negotiations. Unfortunately, this misguided cyber legislation does little to protect Americans' security and a great deal more to threaten our privacy than the flawed Senate version. Americans demand real solutions that will protect them from foreign hackers, not knee-jerk responses that allow companies to fork over huge amounts of their customers' private data with only cursory review. He goes on to say the latest CISA bill contains fewer oversight and reporting provisions than the Senate version did, and this means that the violations of Americans' privacy will go unnoticed. He added the bill strips authority from the independent watchdog on the government surveillance, the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board, and makes it easier, especially for the CIA, to refuse to cooperate with this board's investigations, reducing the amount of independent oversight and constricting the scope of the PCLOB's authority sends the wrong message and will make our intelligence agencies less accountable. Another part of the bill is mentioned has been the defense spending, and in it we see a breakdown. The increases will look like this over the next couple of years: 25 billion in 2016 and another 25 billion on top of that increase in 2017. We're going to see spending of 32 billion spread over 2 years, which will be for the overseas contingency operations fighting ISIL in Syria. There's also going to be increases in what they call non-defense spending over the next 2 years, which is 40 billion extra. I wonder what that actually entails. Non-defense spending in the military. Sounds like Homeland Security equipment and training for local authorities. Let's go on to a breakdown even further of this overseas package. Some 600 million has been earmarked for a program called Appropriately Vetted Syrian Rebels. They're fighting both ISIS and the government of the Syrian President Assad. 531.5 million will go directly to the Syrian Train and Equip program. We've seen that in the past. We had, 50 soldiers that were supposedly trained, and only 5 of them actually were still in existence by the end of the year. The rest had fled, took off. We lost a lot of equipment, and how many millions were lost to that? But now we're going to dump another 530 plus million into the same program, which also means the Army needs another 25 million, the Air Force 42 million to cover their cost of doing this training. So we're seeing the continual ramp up of our military to fight the war on terror, which the polls are now indicating that Americans support more troops on the ground to join the other 15 nations that are being deployed into the Syrian mess. Okay, and if you've never really looked into the military-industrial complex, I think it's a good read to look at the background, what this is actually entails. Basically comprises the policy and monetary relationships which exist between legislatures, national armed forces, the arms industry that supports them. These relationships include political contributions, political approval for military spending, lobbying to support bureaucracies, and oversight of the industry. It's good to know a little bit about how our government works with all of the taxes that are spent in this country to support our government, about this particular entity, the military industrial complex. Moving on, we see as the Dow has plunged actually 620 points over the last 2 days, we still have that great increase, and our public debt with a new $1.1 trillion budget. I want to point out this article here because there was comments made during the week about bulk purchases of equipment from Walmarts and other places, cell phones and propane tanks, and this caught my eye because it was something that I had, I don't know, an idea about right after I figured out San Bernardino could be a possible false flag, that there could be another target used to basically get more public fervor for the war on terror. I'm going to read this a little bit through this. This is an individual who lives actually near this dam and is a state representative. His name is Rocky Miller. He believes that people living in this area have nothing to fear when it comes to possible terrorist activity. I think people are getting nervous for no reason, he said plainly. Interesting that so many different people have had this idea hit them about another possible target. Reading on a little bit further, it would take such an amount of explosives to destroy the dam, it's just unthinkable, he said, adding it would take 4 or 5 truckloads of high explosives to do any substantial damage to the structure. He continued saying that while the structure is certainly an important part of the state's electrical infrastructure, the dam does not continuously output electricity. It has a very low impact on the overall energy production in our state. It's a cheap way to produce electricity when we need it. Miller added that in terms of causing casualties and destroying the dam, destroying the dam would likely harm relatively few people. Most people living at the lake do not live below the dam along the unimpounded part of the Osage River, and that for those few who do, there are warning systems in place should the dam fail for some reason. He said that all of those lives are important, but that it made little sense for so much effort to go into such a low impact attack. Okay, that's the one part of this article that I totally disagree with. I really do believe black ops people are looking to create fear more than anything. So for them to attack this dam isn't necessary. It's just necessary that they attack a dam or another high impact target. Um, but just because you're looking for a body count doesn't necessarily equate to what a black ops false flag event would target. They're looking to create the fear. And he's right. Such a high structure, amount of concrete in these dams does make it virtually impossible that anybody could blow them up with any kind of conventional weapon. It would take a nuclear bomb to destroy this particular dam, the Hoover Dam, 660 feet thick at the base, 75 feet thick at the top. Okay, it's not going to be something that a potential black ops false flag operative would be looking to do. They would be looking more onto the lines of a smaller dam. And in fact, this dam resembles what I actually envisioned when I first had my thought, and it's in our area. And all around the country, there are these smaller type of dams. This one is 75 feet thick at the base and only 15 feet thick at the top. Okay, and looking at it though, the impact would be severe. Yes, there's not a lot of property below the dam that would cause a body count, but the damage that it would create, the fear that it would create when it released this 7-mile long lake, Alder Lake, into the surrounding area would definitely create a lot of panic. You just see one small town here not too far away. Not sure that the water would actually flow in that direction because there's a river that heads this way, but it's going to go everywhere until it makes its way to the Puget Sound. So those are the kind of targets that I'm most thinking that we all should be wary about, especially when they do see these things like the bulk purchasing of certain types of electronic equipment that could remotely set off an attack. But in all in this, I do want to wrap up today and just talk about what should be our response as Christians and those who, we do have a heart to help those in need, the desperate situation in the Middle East, the refugee crisis, a lot of people who have been displaced by all of the terrible tragedy in Syria over the last 4 years. Here's an article that I found in our local newspapers here, the Olympian, and I just want to say thumbs up to this article about how we should try to sort out the news daily and figure out what our response should be. And this gentleman, his name is Jeremy Courtney. He actually works in Iraq, and he works with the refugee crisis. So he's in the direct front lines of all the hell that's going on in the Mideast. And I like the way he wrote this article. I'm just going to read it through here. He says, I have a confession. I am afraid. I live in Iraq with my family, working at the headwaters of the Syrian and Iraqi refugee crisis, moving among Sunni jihadists, sniper fire, suicide bombers, sleeper cells, and Iranian-backed militia. I've received both death threats, had mobs incited against me, and had friends kidnapped and killed by the Sunnis and Shia Arabs and Kurds, and I'm afraid. Even on the ground here in Iraq, I hear the zero-sum conversation in the U.S. right now. Be wise, close the borders, protect our own on the one hand, or be loving, welcome refugees, stop being afraid on the other. If you're not afraid, you're either braver than I am or significantly less informed. Terrorism, kidnappings, and beheadings are not political talking points for us. I often think about my American colleagues and what might happen to us and our families if we are captured or killed. Will someone care for my wife and kids? Will I care for my colleagues' families if they don't make it home alive? But I always end up most afraid for my local friends. When you swim in the headwaters of the refugee crisis, you don't see Muslims or Christians, Arabs, Yazidis, or Kurds. At least you don't see those things first. Unless you are already sectarian and insist on labeling people before you help them. Smart people are working on the refugee crisis and are neither naive imbeciles nor warmongering scaredy cats. So I do not think it is new lenses or perspectives that are needed at all. What is needed above all is the one thing we cannot attain by force, a brand, or will, excuse me, but brand new eyes to see. We absolutely need to be wise to protect our own and to screen all refugee applicants. We absolutely must care for those who are on the run for their lives. It's hell on earth is often how people displaced by the Islamic State, militia, and dictatorial regimes describe their existence. Hell on earth is what the carnage looked like after terrorist attacks in Paris, Beirut, Baghdad, Ankara, and on 9/11, and now also San Bernardino. It is not right or reasonable to tell anyone to not be afraid. Terrorism is terrifying. But we should aim to not be ruled by fear. In the face of ISIS, Iran, and countless other nemesis neighbors, we must commit to love anyway. Punching fear in the face does not give birth to love. It's just another way of continuing to fight. Yes, the world is scary as hell. Love anyway. And I believe that this is something for all of us to keep in mind. It's very difficult to sort through the facts of San Bernardino and to know everything, but to have a distrust of our government, to possibly see that that was manipulated to cause that distrust, to not be able to discern whether your government is telling you the truth, that is a very scary thing. And all of us have our own neighborhoods where we live, and local authorities in our states that we won't be able to control everything that they do. We can, with the power of prayer, I believe, be ready for possibly what is coming around the corner, but our actions should show that we are ready to love people at our level wherever we meet them. We don't know the full story. What the media tells us can be believed. We don't know who the shooters were in San Bernardino, but I can tell you I don't believe Malik was part of it. Nobody has come out to describe her at the site of the shootings, and so we don't know if Muslims are being falsely accused, and to just go off hinged on all Muslims based on that attack, I don't think should be our response at this point. And I would hope that all of us would have the ability to love even our enemies, and especially those who are being manipulated around us. So that's my news for the day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing your comments, and we'll see you again.